All right, Any Given Sunday Sports Special. We're back. I know you guys thought you weren't getting a show, but you were wrong. Of course you were going to get one. We're combining it all. You got Steve, you got me, you got Anthony. We're going to combine it all. We're going to do your matchups, and we're going to tell you how you drafted all in one. We got a lot to get into, so I'm going to shut up, give Steve the floor so he can do his thing.
Yeah, we're going to go right into it. I mean, it's going to be quick, powerful, fast. So we'll start off with the first one. Projected at 81 points versus 92 points. You have Florida Thirst Traps playing Slap Sauce. Slap Sauce is favored 92 to 81. I will turn it over to you guys. Jesus, what do you think about both these teams matching and then the matchup?
Yeah, well, I mean, first go ahead, because we were going to slightly touch on their drafting. I think Gabe had a bad draft. And I'm pretty sure, he's man enough where he would probably tell you that he agrees. So he had to make some moves. And I think that he did that. And I think he maybe potentially made himself a little bit more competitive, could have potentially maybe saved his season. We got to see, right? The games hasn't even been played yet. But he has starting running backs now. I love Chris Carson. Carlos Hyde, I think, is going to be good to start off the year. And Brandon Cooks is a damn good receiver. Rob Gronkowski, we all know what he's going to do, but that was via trade. I am absolutely terrified, though, of his number 2 receiver in DJ Moore. Not that I don't like the guy, but it's a rookie receiver. Rookie receivers usually aren't that impactful their rookie year. It's very rare that they are. So I'm genuinely concerned about that situation. With that also being said, he has Jordy Nelson in his lineup. Why does he have Jordy Nelson in his lineup? It beats me. I don't understand that. When he on the bench, he could literally do several other things there. I mean, even I would take Nelson Aguilar because Jeffrey's not expected to play. Put him in your lineup there, and then find a way to get Peyton Barber in your lineup also at the flex. So Gabe has some work to do. I'm hoping this isn't his final lineup. On the other side, Slap Sauce, they didn't have a wow draft either. They were too focused kind of on, hey, let me go ahead and let me hike up the price on person A or player B, and kind of put himself in a situation where, Josh Gordon, who's not even expected to start, is his number 1 receiver. Juju Smith-Schuster is not even the number 1 receiver on his own team. LaShawn McCoy, I don't, as everybody knows, I'm not a fan of LaShawn McCoy. I think he's going to get a lot of touches, but I don't know how productive those touches are going to be. So I'm genuinely concerned on his side of what he's going to do as well. I love the Drew Brees trade. I think that kind of is going to give him a little bit of a boost, right, to help him out as far as at the quarterback position, because we all know Big Ben can't play on the road. He's not capable of it. He's just not good on the road, period, point blank. If I'm him, though, I'd find a way to get Corey Davis in the lineup. Yes, he didn't have a great preseason, but I think overall Corey Davis is going to be a really good fantasy football receiver this year. So that's my thoughts on that. If I have to give you a pick on this game, give me the upset. I do think the Thirst Traps find a way to pull this win off.
All right, I'll go next. So I was very shocked getting the lineup Gabe for the Florida Thirst Traps. I was just expecting a much different team. I'll be very honest. And I was actually kind of shocked where he netted out. So I don't know what happened during the draft, as everybody knows. But he does have some good pieces, as you said, Rob Gronkowski, Brandon Cooks. But the only issue is with Gronkowski is the injury-prone stuff. So that could hurt him down the line. So I think he does need to get depth. I agree with you. I hate Jordy Nelson on this roster. And Carson and Moore, well, specifically Moore. Yeah, you gotta put somebody else in that lineup to start the year. Yeah. Peyton Barber is the starter for now.
Absolutely.
So run with Peyton Barber for as long as you can. And the Bucs are not good with hiding tails. They're going to tell you who they're going to start. So Peyton Barber's going to get it. He's going to have his opportunity. If he does bad week 1, you need to get rid of Barber because he probably won't be the starter, and they're going to now do committee back, running back by committee. You'll see some of Ronald Jones. You'll see Barber. You'll see that other guy who used to be in Atlanta. Like, they're going to move it around. On the other side, Slap Sauce, wow. I mean, yeah, I actually think Smith-Schuster is going to have a great year.
Okay.
You guys know how I feel about Jordan Howard. LaShawn McCoy, I think he's still going to be productive. Kenyon Drake, I think he's going to be decent.
Yeah, I like Kenyon.
The only thing is I agree with you. Josh Gordon needs to get out of the lineup, and you need to find somebody else who'll get the targets, because I don't think he will coming out of the gate. He's a little injured. So for right now, my pick, I'm going to actually pick Slap Sauce to win this game. I think they just have a little bit more depth than the Thirst Traps. But for both of these guys, from a drafting, I was expecting much different. But Slap Sauce gets the edge on the drafting as well.
Okay.
And
Yeah, Slap Sauce was aggressive at drafting, but it seemed kind of like wayward and all over the place. I mean, it's good to be aggressive and try to hike up the price on players. I get that, just to kind of fuel the competitive fire and things. But I think the idea most of the times when you're trying to hike up players' prices on one guy is so you can have other teams have less money so you can get the guy you really want.
Yep.
And looking at his roster, I'm not certain who he really wanted. Like, no one really stands out. I mean, you guys might have an issue with Jordan Howard, but he's been a consistent back.
But he traded for him, so he didn't draft him, though. So we can't give credit for him on draft day for that.
Right. I'm like you made the move for him, so you wanted that guy. Kelsey, you have that guy. You have McCoy. You have Josh. But like after that is Gordon, Smith-Schuster. Again, I think he's going to have a good year. Drake will maybe have a good year, but a lot of the roster is kind of all over the place. And outside of that, I mean, of all the talent that was there, and we spoke before about the depth at quarterback. I mean, you have three of them. I mean, I'm going to assume that maybe Jimmy's your future guy, but you have him, Breeze, and Roethlisberger. So then you're playing matchups with that. You still got a roster spot that's open. You got to kind of sort it out and figure out what you're going to do from there. Like I said, you have a lot of wide receivers, but you only have right now Howard, McCoy, and Drake. So if one of those guys go down, I mean, you literally have no depth there. That's a really big problem. You need at least one more, maybe two, but who's going to go? I mean, you made the move for Watkins, and you're going to see what you can get from him. But, I mean, you have a guy that you're going to have with Kelsey, so it's impossible, but not necessarily impossible, depending on how the offense itself works out. You're not really going to start him and Kelsey at the same time. You just kind of have him. Hopefully you move on from him, but you'll see. I think on the opposite side, what Gabe did was he drafted, he knew he made mistakes. What he tried to do immediately is rectify those mistakes. I think he did a good job.
Yep.
I think, like I said, High will be a starting running back for now. I think early in the season is what really matters. You get the guys that you know are going to play right away. Carson will, Hyde will, Barber will. Like I say, you
figure the
put
rest
your
out
faith in
later.
Michelle. Yeah, that's for the future. You got Michelle, and that's for the future. You got Rudolph with a good tight end. You got Barber, but you also have Jones. So if, like Steve said, if they decide to give the ball to Jones, Barber's just running back by committee kind of thing, so he can go. You can make other moves and everything else like that, but he has depth. That's one thing he didn't have before.
Yep.
And while I might disagree with the idea of starting Jordy Nelson, but I think with the recent news finding out that Martavius Bryant has been released and that Jordy Nelson is going to step into the number 2 receiver role.
Good
and I mean, it's not really much really there in that Oakland offense. I mean, it is Amari Cooper. It is Derek Carr. It might be Marshawn Lynch. So,
good point.
and the defense after getting rid of Mac might not be that good, so they might be in a lot of shootouts. So it might not be a bad idea. But for this week, I think with Roethlisberger, I think with that connection with Smith, I think Kelsey's going to have a good game. And also with Howard and McCoy. You know what? For this week, let's go with Slap Sauce.
Okay.
I think they did an okay job drafting, but I think they did good enough to win this week.
All right.
Fair
enough.
So next team we have is carrying on my wayward son, which is Dom's team, versus the Daytona Daunting Ducks, which is Jose's team. Right now, Jose's favored by 98 to 91. Gentlemen, I'll start with you, Anthony. Who do you have in this matchup?
I'm going to go with the Ducks. And it's for a few reasons. First thing, let's start off with the draft. You got to appreciate someone who comes in with a lot of money and they make sure they spend pretty much every single dollar. And I think what he got is a very good starting lineup. I think Brady, Bell, that's a great way to start. Thielen's going to be good. I know he suffered a slight ankle injury, but from what I'm hearing, it should be okay. Apparently, they're going to give Jay Ajayi the ball. He's going to be the bell cow back for them. Olsen is always a fantastic starter. Tight end, always top 5 guy. You got Landry, who impressed during the preseason, and especially with the health and mental and physical of Josh Gordon as of now, he's still going to receive those targets in a more spread out kind of offense. Jamal Williams, good pickup. Like I said, Russell. And bench is a bit shaky. I mean, Clement is a good backup for Jai. Jeffrey's hurt right now, but he'll be back eventually. I don't trust Devontae Parker. I've had him for a couple of years. I know how that one goes. So he has a lot of handcuffs and some other pieces. I think overall, it's not bad. I would say on the opposite side, I really hate to say this, but I gotta kind of give Dom credit for at least seem like he know what he's doing this year. I'm proud of the guy. We all have, in some way, shape, or form, felt a particular way about Matthew Stafford, but he has them. He has 3 tremendous weapons at wide receiver, so it should really open up the offense for him. Alvin Kamara is we're going to hope that he's a proven commodity. I don't think he does what he does last year, but even if there's some bit of regression, it's still going to make him top 5, top 6 back in the league.
Yep.
And adding him to Hill and Green, and I think Njoku's going to have a really big year. I love Freeman and I love Allen Robinson. The bench, from what he has, kind of scattershot, but I see the aggression there. He picks up Keenan Cole at the injury to what is my man's name? Marquise Lee. Thank you. Sorry. He picks him up. He has Nick Chubb, which I think Chubb will eventually get the job in Cleveland. Not right away, but eventually. He has the team's namesake in Kerryon Johnson, which maybe he will eventually put in, but I don't see any room right now. But like I said, a lot of running backs, a lot of wide receivers. But for this week, let's see. Brady's going against Houston. Bell's going against Cleveland.
You changing?
Oof. No. I was going to, but then I'm looking at it. Yeah, I'm going to roll with the Ducks. I think it's going to be a lot tighter than what the score shows because Dom does have a lot of weapons and a lot of proven ones at that.
Dom doesn't have a kicker in there right now, so that's
right. And I think when he puts a kicker in, I think it basically becomes an even game. Yep. Probably so, but yep. I think just having Brady and this being his time, and I think Bell's going to be back week 1. So I think with that combination, I think with Thielen and Olsen and Jay Ajayi getting the ball a lot in that first game, I'm going to stick with the Ducks. But Jesus, what do you think?
All right, so let's go ahead and let's first start off with this. The Daytona Ducks, they had I specifically know what their game plan was. Excuse me, and their game plan going into the draft was get my starting lineup and get all my handcuffs. And he did that. He successfully did that. Another thing that he did that is usually not normal of rookies. When you hear of a keeper league and you hear of a keeper auction league, every time we get rookies, some of the things they tend to focus on is they say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get a bunch of young guys and for cheap so that I can focus on the future. This man did not get a single potential keeper. Not a single one. He did not care about that. He said, I'm just going to draft for this year. I'm going to see how it goes, and then I'll make my adjustments later on down the line. That's rare. That's very rare that you see that happen. And that's what he did. So I think overall, I'm looking at his lineup. I really like his lineup. I love Le'Veon Bell, who was already there. So I'm not going to give him credit for that. Tom Brady, I didn't like it at first when he first drafted Tom Brady. But then I said to myself, well, Russell Wilson's a slow starter. So I kind of understand that move now. Because Russell Wilson never kicks it in until the second half of the season. So he'll have Tom Brady holding him down for the first half. Adam Thielen. I'm not big. I don't dislike him. I don't like him. I just think he's a meh type of guy. He puts up good numbers though, so I can't say otherwise. Jarvis Landry, I love that move. I love that pickup because people don't realize is in Miami, all they wanted to do was have him running those short routes. He can do a lot more than that, and from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, Cleveland is going to use him a lot more than just those 5-yard routes. Greg Olsen, he's healthy, so the expectation is he's going to be a top 5, top 7 tight end. And I again, that's what you need in, like you always say, Anthony, you have Gronk and then everybody else. Greg Olsen fits into that everybody else category. Jay Ajayi, he's a guy I wasn't big on, but Steve actually was one that, was telling me about him, I would say months ago, how he thinks that Jay Ajayi is going to get a lot of touches. I didn't buy into it at first, but after hearing what Doug Peterson said is telling him, and all the coaches are telling Jay Ajayi is that he's going to be the workhorse. They don't want to do a running back by committee. So if healthy, Jay Ajayi is going to be a top flight running back. You add on top of that, he got his handcuff in Corey Clement. So if Jay Ajayi can't play, okay, fine, he'll plug in Corey Clement. He's not going to skip a beat there. I love that move. And then Williams is going to hold him down for now because, I believe they have their other running back that's suspended first couple of games in the year. So it's going to be him. I love Devin Funchess. I think DJ Moore is getting a lot of love, but people forget Funchess was a damn good receiver last year. So I love that off the bench. Devontae Parker got to go. Peace out. Don't want to see you at your face anymore. I think you got to get rid of him. Randall Cobb is going to be, I think, solid this year. Nothing special, but I think he'll be solid. On the other side, let's really quick go. Dom, I'm going to be very honest. I love what he did in the offseason. I did not like his draft now that I'm looking at it. I didn't really have a chance to really study it. But if you really think about it, he went into the draft with Kamara, AJ Green, Tyreek Hill, and Devontae Freeman. Solid players. He still had about over $100 left on his cap. And you're telling me all he was able to add to that was Alvin Kamara? So you guys remember just before the draft, what did I say? I said, please, Dom, mess this up by going big on one player. Please, Dom, mess this up by going big. That's exactly what he did. Did I not call it? Because now you look, he has to go in with Matthew Stafford as his starting quarterback in fantasy football. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong. In all the years that we've had this league, Matthew Stafford has never he has never been on a championship winning fantasy football team. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be. But I don't believe he's ever been on a championship-winning team in fantasy football. I don't see that changing this year. Allen Robinson, I haven't seen anything from him in preseason. I can't say whether I think he's going to be good or bad because they haven't played him. So I don't know where that connection is. On the bench, what bench does he have? He has Kerryon Johnson, but he's a third? He's a third running back over there right now. I don't know what's going to happen there. Marlon Mack he's hurt right now, so we don't know when he's going to play. Nick Chubb. I like John Brown. Adrian Peterson will be good, but we all know Adrian Peterson fooled us last year. He had a good game in Arizona, the first game, and then all of a sudden, he got hurt, right? Mm-hmm. So that I see the same thing happening again. And then, Steve, you weren't here for this, but Darius Guice, who we all knew going into the draft was out for the season with an ACL. Mm-hmm. Dom went ahead, threw him out there for $10. Didn't even allow anybody to bid. Just said, Darius Guice, $10.
Without flinching.
Oh.
And we're looking at him like, what in the world are you doing? No, like, at least throw him out there for $1, $2, and then let it get to 10 if you want to really go that number. But why throw the number 10 out there instead of seeing if anybody, and nobody in the league was going to go to the number 10. So he could have potentially had guys for a lot cheaper than $10, but for some odd reason, he said, I'm going to just throw him out there for $10. So, these are, and you expect that from rookies, but not from veterans like Dom. With that being said, I'm looking at this matchup. Dom has that full star power, but I'm still going to say Jose is going to pull this game off because Jose has a team that he's putting out there as opposed to a four-headed monster that Dom has. Give me Jose in this game.
Okay. So I am going to say from a matchup standpoint that this game's pretty close, but I'm actually going to go with Dom on this one, and here's why.
Okay.
I just think Adam Kamara against the Bucks defense, AJ Green against that Indianapolis defense.
Yep.
To me, I'm just looking down the line. He has a lot more favorable matchups week one.
Mm-hmm.
However, though, with the Daunting Ducks, I agree with you, gentlemen. I mean, I was very impressed with what he netted. He had Le'Veon Bell already there, but the fact he was able to add Tom Brady, I get it. Adam Thielen is not a sexy name, but if you were to just strip the name off and look at last year's production, and assume that person makes the same production this year, you would bet a lot of money and put a lot of money on that guy to get him on your roster.
True.
So the fact that he got Adam Thielen back is, I think, a great, and I think the price wasn't that bad if I remembered correctly. So he did really great there. Mm-hmm. Goes down, adds a Jarvis Landry who's been looking amazing this preseason. So you have to love that. And then, to your point, man, the fact that he was able to get Jay Ajayi out of the gate, and then he gets a Williams from Green Bay, and if Williams can perform, he can hold on to that spot. And then you look down the rest of Russell Wilson as a backup to Tom Brady, like who wouldn't want that? And then you're talking to him about a potential trade trip, because Tom Brady could sustain all year, and he could be like, hey, Russell Wilson's the number 3, number 4, number 5 quarterback. I could get a piece back. So a team who's looking for a quarterback, he now has a trading piece already built in. So I think he did a great job. I just don't think he's going to win this game. On the flip side, I agree with you, gentlemen. I think Dom had a position to kind of grab a hold of things. He still has a good roster, don't get me wrong. He's still going to be very competitive, I think.
Yes.
But I just thought I thought his bench would be much more would have a lot more substance to it. And he's got a lot of young guys that need to prove themselves, which is okay, but it's asking a lot of your bench. So with that, I think Daunting Ducks are going to be fine after taking the L for week 1. And I think the East needs to worry about him. But with Dom, we'll see. So I got the Daunting Ducks on that.
Okay.
All right. Next game, we're going to go to McPoon handling Goat Engines versus a slightly punty vibe. Poon's projected at 90, whereas a slightly punty vibe projected at 98. And with this, I'm actually going to kick it off to Anthony to explain how he thinks his draft went and who he's got.
I'm going to talk about myself.
Yeah, man.
Oh, that's great. Okay. When in the draft, I was actually doing double duty because, first of all, because I know we didn't speak on it yet. When everyone listens, let's everyone congratulate Steve on the newest addition to his family.
Congrats, Steve.
Thank you.
So it was enjoyable, but very stressing at the same time. I don't have much hair to lose. Well, none to lose, actually. So it didn't help. So I went on the draft and made sure I focused on getting the pieces that I needed to get around both Hopkins, Johnson, and Ingram. I think I made not a lot of mistakes. I think there are some weaknesses, I would think, especially at quarterback. But more than anything else, I tried to make some moves where I had some depth just in case anything ever happened. And a move did come along where I was able to upgrade my wide receiver spot to attach myself and get Michael Thomas. So I think that was extremely helpful. I think all in all, I think my draft was pretty good. Wasn't one of the better ones that I had, but I did enough to get what I needed to accomplish what I needed to accomplish. I did not expect Michael Thomas to be on my team this way. I was hoping to get him in a draft, but one way or another, it all kind of worked out. I think for the Goat Engines, I generally try to take things as clearly as possible. I don't necessarily think that he had a bad draft because most importantly, he got one of the best wide receivers in the game. I know this might sound silly, but I think Davante Adams is probably going to end up maybe being a top 3 or top 4 wide receiver at the end of the year. The only reason why I say that is because I don't trust Randall Cobb. I know they have Geronimo Allison. And I think that, Rodgers has this ability that he just wants to get comfortable with that guy. And I think Adams just might be the thing. But outside of that, I'm not really impressed with the draft. I love Deshaun Watson. I wanted him for myself, but he ended up with him. I think the move he made earlier for Fournette is a terrific one, especially with the way Bortles has looked this preseason. I think just having that guy back there and just giving him about 350 touches this year is going to make a big difference. But outside of that, I don't know which one to get from Fitzgerald. Kittle's up in the air. Cooper, like I said, they might be in a lot of shootouts because that defense might be bad. Everyone's hyped about Royce Freeman, but we're going to see how that goes. Again, the guy's a rookie. You have Doyle and Derek Carr. You picked up Breida because McKinnon's back on IR. You have both Washington wide receivers, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, you don't want to play the matching game with them. On the opposite side, the bench does consist of Kelvin Benjamin, which might not be a great thing, but again, he's the number one guy. I have faith in Mike Williams. A good one should be the number one option in San Francisco. Kelly is a decent backup. Corral will have a starting job. Jameis Winston was a recent pickup just in case we needed more quarterback depth, but having a lineup of Rivers, Johnson, Hopkins, Thompson, Evan Ingram, Lamar Miller, and Chris Hogan, I think that's a pretty good team. And I think this week we should put it to the Goat Engine to take them home.
All right. I'm gonna go next, Jesus.
Yep.
I'm gonna say this. I had no idea what happened at draft. I would have never, looking at this roster, would have never known you were managing two teams or however you guys did it, because the names that I'm seeing on this, and then with the trades that you've done, this team is dangerous. Because on my board, as much as I wanted to go after a big time receiver, Michael Thomas on my board was the number one receiver. I just want to let everybody know that. Like, if had I wanted to go big on a receiver, Michael Thomas would have been number one by far.
If you would
So
have told me, I would have went.
And I know it's fine. It's fine. I went another direction when we talked about, when we get to my team, we'll talk about it. But Michael Thomas is going to be a beast. And when you can put that against with a D Hopkins, who I think is going to be there, and then a Johnson, that's amazing. Here's where I think ultimately you won the draft. No, I don't think anybody realizes how Williams in LA is doing. He is having an amazing preseason and is probably poised to put up some really, really good numbers. So the fact that you were able to get Mike Williams on your team, huge success. And then on top of that, you find a way to put Goodwin, who's still a number one receiver, Isaiah Correll, who's right now the top running back. I look at this roster and I'm like, this is a team. I mean, Evan Ingram is. I mean, we talked about it in our last conversation on the draft, where I said even when Odell Beckham's on the field, his production doesn't go down.
Yep.
I gave you stats on that. So the fact that you have a consistent team, I think this is a really solid A draft from top to bottom.
Yep.
For McPoon now, McPoon has a great team as well, but let's be real, he is carrying an enormous amount of risk. And here's why. Deshaun Watson, because of injury. If he plays, he's going to be a top 3 quarterback. But I worry about will he get injured again because of how he plays. Fournette, if Fournette plays the whole season, he's a top 3 running back. But again, his ankles, his knees, he starts getting wear and tear, and I've yet to see him finish a full season not being injured. So I question that. Davante Adams. And I love Green Bay receivers, and I get this guy is talented. But guys, how many years have we seen Davante Adams be number one, or then it'll be Randall Cobb, or then it'll be another guy? And I feel like every year, and then now you're throwing into the mix that they got Jimmy Graham. I'm just saying, you don't know who could be number one. You know what I mean? It could be Randall Cobb this year for all we know. So that's why I can't confidently say that Adams is going to be a top 5 receiver. But he could be. So again, that's risk. Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald's getting Sam Bradford. And then if Sam Bradford could stay healthy, which I don't think, so then now it's going to go over to a rookie, which it's going to take the rookie some time. I think Larry Fitzgerald's production is going to go down. And and again, it's an injury risk, so a lot of risk there. If it maintains, I could see Fitzgerald being in a top 15. But again, it's all dependent on the health of the quarterback. Amari Cooper, same thing. He's been looking great in preseason. But again, can he sustain that and actually catch the ball when it means something? So I look at this roster and I'm saying, man, McPoon has the ability of being a championship team. But there's just a lot of questions when you go down and you look at every single one of this guy. For this particular matchup, I think slightly Pontibive has the better matchups. If McPoon can hold on and his team actually stay together and all those things that I said don't happen, McPoon has a chance to be in the playoffs and win a championship. But I highly doubt it because it's just so much risk. Jesus.
All right, so let me first go ahead and start it off with McPoon. I look at McPoon's draft. So we knew he had what he had going in. I love the acquisition of Deshaun Watson. Yes, it's a high risk, absolutely. What I didn't like was what he backed Deshaun Watson up with. That's where my concern is. Whenever you have a quarterback that's injured, that he runs and he tore his ACL, but he relies a lot on his legs. I want to get, man, he's coming off an ACL injury. I want to get someone that's going to then be able to go ahead and give me some security if he does go down. He didn't do that. Derek Carr, I'm sorry, he's just not that guy, in my opinion. He was that guy 1 year. Once he got paid, then he became just average. As Larry Fitzgerald, I'm not. I mean, I guess maybe he does it consistently, but you guys know I feel his best days are way behind him, so I'm not a fan there. I do think Amari Cooper is intriguing because he's now the number one guy. He is the guy now. Crabtree was over there, which kind of took a lot of targets from him. I don't see Jordy Nelson being able to take targets away from Amari Cooper. Like you said, Steve, the biggest issue with Amari Cooper is just holding on to the ball, just catching that damn ball. If he catches it, he's gonna be so good. I love Royce Freeman. I can't sing his praises enough. If there is a rookie running back that I wanted really badly going into this draft, it was Royce Freeman. I wasn't able to get him thanks to Rich. So I do think Royce Freeman will end up being a top 15 running back this year when it's all said and done. I know they announced Devontae Booker as the starting running back. I get it. But if anybody who's watched these preseason games, it's not even close. Royce Freeman has outperformed in every aspect. The only area where he needs some work is that pass blocking. Once he gets better at pass blocking, the guy's going to be the starter, in my opinion. I love the Jaguars' defense. To me, that's like another starting flex position, in my opinion, right there. So, but then his bench is just kind of weak. There's really nothing out there that stands out to me there. But T.J. Yeldon, that's the handcuff, right, that he has there. Matt Breida was supposed to be the handcuff to McKinnon, although I'm sorry, I think Alfred Morris is going to be the guy that's going to get the majority of the touches from everything that I'm hearing. So I don't foresee that there. I don't like his bench too much. On the other side, to me, Anthony had a good draft, but then he took his draft from a good draft to having an amazing roster when he pulled that trigger from Michael Thomas. So, Anthony, I tip my cap to you. You got the deal done, but you got the deal done. You proved to the league that you can do a trade and win a trade, but also be fair to the other team, because you didn't just give up scrubs to get this guy. You gave up starting running backs and a starting receiver, and now your team, I'll be honest, me being, usually one of the top teams on a year-to-year basis, I'm concerned. I will freely admit it. I'm concerned. The only thing that I'm banking on is Lamar Miller and Chris Hogan won't hold you down for the whole season. But then you have a guy by the name of Mike Williams. Steve mentioned it before. This guy has been amazing in camp. Absolutely amazing.
Disgusting.
So I'm concerned. I am genuinely concerned about that guy, because I do think that at the way they're hyping him up, he could potentially be a top 25 wide receiver this year when it's all said and done. And then you have his quarterback who's throwing him the ball. So if you get that 12-point connection going, I'm going to be sick to my stomach on that. So, Anthony, again, great job drafting, great job making moves. I love what you did. I'm going to say that you are actually going to win this game, and I do think you're probably going to win it pretty easily in this case. Nothing against Rich. Again, I like Rich's team, but I'm just concerned with Kittle. I'm concerned with Fitz. So give me Anthony by, I would say, maybe 12, around there.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. All right, next game. We're going to go to Tampa's Empire versus the New York Powers. Tampa's Empire is projected at 93, and the New York Powers, defending champs, projected at 99. Jesus, what say you?
Well, let me go ahead. I want to say how great of a job you did drafting, Steve. But I want to say, Anthony, how great of a job you did drafting again. You did a really good job for Steve. I just look at it. You got T.Y. Hilton. If Andrew Luck is healthy, we all know T.Y. Hilton's a top 5 fantasy football wide receiver. And everything that I'm hearing, he tweaked, I guess, his hamstring or whatever it was in camp. He tweaked something, but it had nothing to do with his shoulder. So I think he's going to be just fine. T.Y. Hilton is then going to be the recipient of a lot of big plays. I love that. Give me T.Y. all day. I love Saquon Barkley. Yes, they sat him out. I get it. But it's nothing that they're concerned with his injury. They were just being cautious, which is what you should be doing in the preseason. Delaney Walker at tight end, I think I don't remember you having a more consistent tight end than a Delaney Walker in any of your previous teams,
Yeah.
Steve. So, he's not somebody that wows you, but he's just a consistent, like a Greg Olsen type of tight end. So I love that. Marvin Jones, nobody, he's like one of those underappreciated players that you like, it's Marvin Jones. But then you just look at the end of the season and he had a damn good year for you. I think he's over his ACL injuries that he had dealt with when he was in Cincy. He's just a rock solid player. And then we go to your bench here, Kenny Galladay. I've said it before. I've said it. I'll say it again. I'm a big fan of Kenny Galladay. I think this is going to be his year where he finally go ahead and takes it to the next level. So I'm a big fan of him. I don't know why Charles Clay's on the roster. I'm still scratching my head on that one. I think he's got to go. He shouldn't even be rostered in a 10-team fantasy league, in my opinion. But he's there. I love Cooper Kupp. He's nothing. He's not going to win you a league, but he's also not going to lose you at the end of the day. Aaron Jones, once he's back from suspension, because I think he's the one that's suspended, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah, he's going to be really good. Cameron Meredith, I think he's going to be rock solid. Then we go to my team on the other side. I did what I feel I usually do, which is build a team. I was able to pull off Stephon Diggs. I still don't know to this moment how I did it. I can't even recall how I did it, because all I know is once I said sold, I was stunned that I had him. So I don't remember who was bidding against me or anything like that. I'm ecstatic that I have him on my team, though. I really, truly am. As far as, I did make a trade. I traded Drew Brees, and I got back Emmanuel Sanders and Jordan Reed. Two guys that you're like, what's that about? But Jordan Reed, if healthy, we all know is a top 3 tight end. He puts up Gronk-like numbers. So to me, it was a low risk there, because if he doesn't do it, well, it's okay. I still have Zach Ertz there. And then Emmanuel Sanders, they're putting Emmanuel Sanders back where he's good at, which is the slot. That's what nobody's realizing. That's where he's comfortable, and that's why I think he's going to have a really, really good year, like an Adam Thielen type of year, I truly believe, in my opinion. And then I went ahead and I got my handcuff in Austin Eckler to Melvin Gordon. I also went ahead got the handcuff to Henry with Deion Lewis. And then I also believe I traded for Rashad Penny in that deal as well. I like Rashad Penny. I think that's a potential long-term keeper. The only issue that I'm concerned with this week is the quarterback position, because I'm going to freely admit it. I can own it when I make a mistake, and I will admit it here. I traded Drew Brees because I was expecting Carson Wentz to start. Everything that I was hearing, I was seeing, was that he was going to start. Now I'm told that he's not going to start. So I'm going to have to close my eyes and just throw in Pat Mahomes, who I don't know if he's ready to be my fantasy starter, but he's going to have to be this week against a damn good Chargers defense. So because of that, Steve, I'm actually going to give you the win this week, because I'm just concerned. Like, I'm going to freely admit it. This was not part of the plan. I traded Drew Brees because I thought Wentz was ready to go. If not, I would have waited one more week before trading Brees.
Yeah. So I agree. I think, so first of all, to Anthony, very close to my board. There were a little bit minor tweaks, which you guys have seen the trade that I already did, which is I wasn't a big fan of Sammy Watkins, so I moved him off. With Clay, I get why you called out Clay, but honestly, I thought about it. I was like, you know what? Let me just see this Buffalo offense for 1 week, and then if it doesn't work out, it's an easy cut. Okay. So I didn't want to make too many rash decisions. I agree with you on the Kenny Galladay. I actually have Kenny Galladay in one of my other leagues. Same with Cameron Meredith. I also have Melvin Jones in some of my other leagues, and Saquon Barkley. So a lot of the same guys that I drafted in other leagues are on my team today. So I want to thank Anthony for covering me on really an unexpected week for me.
You're welcome.
On the other side, Powers, you drafted extremely well. I did scratch my head. That was the only thing I scratched my head on, was the trade, the Drew Brees trade.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, not scratch my head as in a bad thing. It's just because I agree with you. I was also in the same line of, I thought Wentz was going to be there for you. Mm-hmm. Because, I think we even had a conversation off air that, it was a good trade for you. Like, long term.
Yeah, the players I got back were damn good. Absolutely.
Exactly. But I agree with you. I think ultimately the only downfall to this week is Pat Mahomes. I don't know if he's ready. Everything that I've seen so far, it's, at times he's looked good. At times he's, looked a little like it's a little too big for him. So I don't know how it's going to work out for you on Sunday, but the rest of you, as long as the rest of your roster shows up, I think it'll be a much closer game than what you think. And at the end of the day, if I had to pick between one of the two teams, I'm still going to pick you in the week one, assuming Mahomes just puts a decent stat line of 17, 16 points. If he can get you at least 16, 17 points, you win this game.
I hope he
because
I mean, I lost to you last year and I won the championship, so I guess I could be okay. But I don't want to make this a habit losing to you.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, I think about it. I mean, I like Derrick Henry. I have Derrick Henry in a couple of other leagues. Stephon Diggs is going to be there. I mean, so I think it's you look at every other position where we compete at line for line, it's pretty close. So the only concern you have is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's not a bad thing. So overall, I think these two teams did good. But I'm going to give the nod to the Powers this week.
Thank you.
I'm not certain what there's much to really say about it. I mean, the Powers every year come in with a very specific plan when it comes to their draft, and they always make sure they execute perfectly. Having a lineup where I'm understanding you might wonder what you're going to get out of Mahomes, and I think that's a fair thing to think about. You're expecting probably the Bear. I don't think he's going to bum it up. I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to expect 15 to 17 from him. I think he can, with the weapons around him. Let's put it this way. Understanding that this is his first NFL start. I mean, his really real, like, I'm the guy, start not, we're sitting you out because of the playoffs, Alex Smith, so come in here and play for a little while, yeah. Patrick Mahomes. If this is his first NFL start, and he has these weapons around him, and we've talked about him throughout camp and seeing how good he looked and so on and so forth, if he can't get you 17, then you have a problem. Mm-hmm. He should, with Hunt and Watkins and Kelsey. The weapons are there. He should be able to get you that. On top of that, you add Melvin Gordon, who we're looking at a guy who's going to be in a very prolific offense and is going to be the bell guy. I understand you have his handcuff in Eckler. I think that's probably a great addition. But Gordon's going to be the guy until injury forces him out. I think having the number one wide receiver in fantasy, and at worst, maybe the number 3 wide receiver in fantasy, is a terrific addition. Having probably the top 3 tight end in Zach Ertz. Having maybe a top 15 wide receiver in Stephon Diggs, all starting this week. And also tossing in Derrick Henry against a Miami defense who just lost Ndamukong Suh this offseason and don't seem to be a good defense overall. It's a pretty loaded and stacked roster. For Steve, I mean, I really did as best I could. I knew that he wanted Hilton because I figured that if he's going to roll with luck, he's going to want Hilton. So let's make sure we get him. I know that he had Kareem Hunt. But like I said, if you can get another big piece, if you can get a guy like Saquon Barkley, cool. Went out and grabbed him for you. Yep. So it's very balanced, even though, I mean, the score saying that it's a 6-point spread, I don't see it. I think, in all honesty, it's really going to come down between Luck and Mahomes this week more than anything else. And honestly, I don't know how much faith I have in Luck. I've seen him in the preseason, and he's looked okay. I mean, but it's been a lot of short to intermediate passes. I haven't really seen him stretch the ball horizontally or vertically around the field. But again, it all comes down to strength and power. Hunt's a terrific back. Evans is the top 7 wide receiver. Hilton's the top 15 wide receiver. Walker's the top 7 tight end. Everyone's predicting Saquon Barkley should be a top 5 back. From the limited time you've seen in preseason, he has looked well. Again, we might say whatever we may feel about Matthew Stafford. But Marvin Jones is a terrific addition to that offense. With him, Tate, and Golladay, they're really going to spread the ball around. So, and I think here's the weird problem looking at this entire matchup. I'm going to give this game to Steve this week. And it's by like the razor thinnest of margins. Is because I'm very interested in seeing that Chargers defense, which he has, against that quarterback in Mahomes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's the
game. And I know the Chargers have had injuries on their defense and so on and so forth, but they have a really great pass rush. They drafted Derwin James, who I did not expect to fall for them. So I'm probably going to do great for them at safety. The pieces are there. And I mean, I know we talk about the Chargers every single year. This is their year. This is their year. I'm not even certain if that's going to be true or not. But I'm going to give this Steve by the thinnest of margins. I think that Mahomes does get his 17. but I think it's going to be a couple turnovers mixing in that really help out the Chargers, and they pull it out for the win. So this week, let's roll the Empire.
All right.
All right. And then the game of the week, guys. This is our last matchup to talk about. Dr. Evil and Telegram, the two Grams against each other. Dr. Evil projected at 100 and Telegram projected at 98. I will go first on this.
Whoa.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
You mean to tell me that from the point we started this conversation to now, it jumped up 2 points?
That's what
Apparently
it's showing.
so.
Showing 100 to 98. I'm seeing.
Yeah.
What? Okay, cool. All right. It was just okay. All right, fine. Point, fine.
So here's what I say. Both of these teams, I really looked at both of these teams. I will say that they have both of them a very good squad. Mainly Dr. Evil. I mean, Dr. Evil has a great squad. I mean, Todd Gurley, who's just magnificent. You have also Christian McCaffrey, who I think is going to be better this year. And Dalvin Cook, even though health injuries, he's going to get better. Where I'm a little shocked is I thought, and again, I wasn't there at the draft. I look at the bench and I was just expecting different names, not necessarily thinking that it's his bench is bad, but I wasn't expecting some of these names here, and I thought he would go after some different guys. But nevertheless, I think Dr. Evil has a solid draft and a pretty good starting lineup. From Pop's side, having Ezekiel Elliott, we already talked about Julio Jones.
Every week.
He went out. He got himself Jimmy Graham. It looks like he got himself a Mixon and Alex Collins. So pretty solid guys. But then you go to the bench and you start seeing like Marshawn Lynch, Mark Ingram, Edelman. So I'm just going to say this, gentlemen. I'm a little surprised that both these teams. I guess I was just expecting. Not necessarily because I don't want to give any of them a knock.
Say it.
But,
why are you trying to sugarcoat it? Just say
it's Labor Day. Speak your mind.
Because again, I wasn't there, so I have no context. But I guess I thought these two teams would have a much better. I just thought these two teams would be in a much better spot than what they are today.
So you're saying they had a bad draft?
Well, no, not necessarily. I guess.
I mean, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying here. That's all.
I guess I was just expecting different. I wasn't expecting some of these names like Ty Montgomery, Michael Crabtree, Edelman, Ridley. I was expecting, I guess, other names that we've seen on other teams. So I'm just a little shocked. Their starting lineup is good. I'm just a little shocked. I'm a little puzzled. That's all I'm saying.
Steve, I'm going to pause you for 1 second because since you weren't there, these two teams actually had the most entertaining moment in the draft.
Yes, they did. McCaffrey.
They did. Okay.
McCaffrey.
So Pops is sitting next to his son, and Christian McCaffrey gets thrown out.
Okay.
And everyone's rambling back and forth about Christian McCaffrey, so on and so forth. Then it kind of stops. Pop says this number. Then it says this number. Pop says this number. And they're literally sitting right next to it. They're not in different rooms or states. They're directly next to each other in the kitchen, which I thought some violence was going to happen, but it didn't. They're sitting in the kitchen, going back and forth about one guy for about a good 2 minutes.
How did McCaffrey go?
What's the number?
The number McCaffrey went for was $57.
Oh.
And they were going back and forth, and I was like, this is beautiful. They're right there. It was the best moment of the draft.
Okay.
$57 Christian McCaffrey went for.
Holy moly. I wasn't... Okay.
Back to you, Steve.
So there's your context. Back to you. Yep.
Okay, so knowing that, I'm shocked. I can't believe that number went to that number. But nevertheless, yeah, so I guess what I was thinking and saying is relatively right. Because I'll just say it now. I was expecting a better bench from Dr. Evil, and I was expecting better drafts from Pops. They still have good teams because they're still projected at 98 and 100 points, which is top of the league.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a little shocked. That's all I'm saying. I'm a little shocked. I'm going to pick Dr. Evil in this one because he's got some solid running backs and some favorable matchups. But, yeah, I'm going to turn it over to you guys because I want to hear more because I have no context to anything.
All right. So, matter of fact, go ahead, Anthony. I'll let you do it, and then I'll close us out. Go ahead.
Cool. But so when it gets to you, are you going to say anything about Julio Jones again?
I'm going to try not to.
Cool. Just wanted to check.
Thank you.
Cool. We just name this the Julio Jones podcast from now on. Really, just give him the league. I think when you look at Pops, I think he always has a very specific idea in mind, and I think the way he drafted shows that idea. He knows he has Rodgers. He knows he has Elliott. He knows he has Jones. He's all right there. I think that you add a guy like Doug Baldwin, generally a top 10 to 12 wide receiver in fantasy every year. This year he's dealing with a knee injury, so that's kind of questionable. Jimmy Graham, he's had him for a very long time, and you're hoping that Jimmy's going to be who he is. And I think in that offense, you're hoping that maybe something comes around. But for years, we've always talked about Aaron Rodgers, and we've always talked about we need to get him a tight end. We need to get him a tight end. Every year, every single fantasy year it comes up. And every time they get a guy, people get excited about him. They get drafted. Nothing ever happens. Happened with Cook. Happened with Martellus Bennett. Always happens. Nothing occurs. Maybe because we still think in our mind that Jimmy's elite. Maybe something happens. Mixon is a guy who's going to get the ball now since they got rid of Jeremy Hill. It's him and Gio Bernard, but he should be the bell cow back. Same thing with Alex Collins. The idea that I'm thinking about with his bench is that he gets Ingram, he gets Edelman, and I know that Pops is super aware that these guys are going to be suspended for the first 4 games. I don't think that slipped his mind at all. I think he's believing that he drafted enough in regards to talent, in regards to Elliott and Jones and Graham and Mixon and Baldwin, that, and especially with Rodgers, that I have enough that if anything, hopefully he avoids injuries. But if everything kind of leans right, he'll still be either winning or be very competitive. So by the time Ingram and Edelman get back, he can swap out one of those guys. He can take out Collins and put in Mark Ingram. Understanding that Mark Ingram is still sharing the backfield with Kamara, he was still basically a top 10 back with that irregardless. So I don't think that'll change anything. I think having Edelman back, especially with the lack of depth at the wide receiver position right now, the Patriots, going to be extremely helpful. For Dr. Evil, I think the most important thing that he did was making sure, I know he did overpay for it, was get Christian McCaffrey. Might sound a little bit strange because when you look at his bench, there's not a lot there. I think it's really going to be based on that starting lineup that he's going to pretty much put out every single week. The guys in his bench are basically roster from it. They're bye week. If something ever happens, I think he's going to be in big trouble. If something happens to Allen or to Thomas, it's going to be troublesome. Like, say you lose early. I mean, that's going to be devastating. But I think from the way they're talking in Carolina, McCaffrey's going to get the ball a ton, either running it or receiving, and he was great this preseason. I think with a healthy Dalvin Cook with Kirk Cousins, it doesn't really make much sense a lot of times. People look at the quarterback wide receiver matchup for most teams. But quarterback running back is a good one, especially with a guy who's actually receiving back like Dalvin Cook. I think Trey Burton is actually on his way. For this week, let's roll with Dr. Evil. I think that matchup with Kirk Cousins and with Dalvin Cook in San Francisco, I know that they're a trendy pick. I think Minnesota really got something going on there. I think those are 2 really big weapons. I think Todd Gurley's going to have a ball against Oakland. So for this week, let's go with Dr. Evil.
All right.
Now, it's on you.
Yep. So, yeah, so I mean, I'm just looking at the teams here, and I actually think Dennis had a pretty good draft overall. I would have loved to see him get a better number 2 receiver, absolutely. But after that money that he spent on Christian McCaffrey, the funds were kind of tight at that point in time. I'm also not a fan of Kirk Cousins. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't trust Kirk Cousins. I'm not a fan of him. I mean, I could be dead wrong. Maybe it was just Washington, but he's never wowed me. So I am genuinely concerned about that. But again, Christian McCaffrey, at the end of the day, if you read the tea leaves, he is going to get the ball a ton. So yes. I think he's going to be very, very good, whether it's running, whether it's catching, no matter what it is, he's going to put up the good numbers. Trey Burton, I wanted Trey Burton. I'll be very clear. I wanted Trey Burton. I was the one that threw him out there during the bidding process. The only reason why I didn't go back and forth with Dennis is because I was hoping if I don't bid on this guy for Dennis, then maybe he'll lay off of my handcuff in Dion Lewis, which it worked out. He didn't bid me up on Dion Lewis, so it kind of worked out in that sense. But overall, I think Dennis had a really good draft. I like his starting lineup. I hope he upgrades the wide receiver position. I'm looking at his bench too. Robert Woods is a good bench wide receiver to fill in for bye weeks. Calvin Ridley, I'm a big fan of Calvin Ridley, so I do think he's going to be really good long term for Dennis. Kenny Stills, let's face it, Devontae Parker's trash, so Kenny Stills is going to be that guy right now. So that's just, that's what it is. And I think Jared Goff is going to be pretty solid. So I think you may even see Jared Goff sneak in there at times during week-to-week basis, because I think he's better than Kirk Cousins, in my honest opinion. Now we're going to go over to Pops. All right, I'm not gonna go on Julio Jones. I'm gonna let that one go because we already went there. So what I do want to discuss is, Pops when Gabe traded Mike Thomas, Pops sent an awkward text message, which I've never seen him do before, saying, well, for the record, I offered, I think it was Edelman, or I don't know, Ingram, I don't know, some players or whatever. Oh, I could be wrong, and you gentlemen can correct me. I almost took that as, I made a bet, for the record, I made a better offer than the other team.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I was like, well, that's not a bad offer from Pops. But then I really studied both the offers. And I think Gabe made the right move. Pops was offering Gabe a player that was suspended. Plus, Pops wanted a future keeper in Sonny Michel from Gabe. Whereas with the Anthony trade, every single player that Anthony gave Gabe was a starter. Plus, on top of that, Gabe sent him Burkhead as opposed to Michel. Burkhead's not a future keeper, whereas Michel is a potential future keeper. So, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but what was the point of Pop sending out that text message? Because I don't think his offer was better, in my honest opinion. I think Gabe did a really good job in taking the right deal. So, Pops, on your end there, it seemed a little bitter. Maybe I'm wrong, and if I was, I apologize. Maybe that's not why you sent that out. But I don't see why. Because Gabe takes your offer doesn't really kick in to help him out until week 4. That's not, at that point, Gabe could potentially be 0-4. Then what is he going to do? Right?
Can I interject?
Sure.
I'm just going to interject. The way I took Pop's text message is Pops has had a paradigm shift in his trading, in my opinion. And I think there are some people, or maybe he thinks there are some people that, Pops just can't make a good trade because he offers garbage. And I think the way I took it is actually, hey, just so everybody knows, like, I offer this, which I don't think it was a bad deal.
It wasn't a bad offer at all.
It wasn't a bad offer. I think it's more of a PR, like, hey, by the way, like, I was in play for that. I offered a good deal. And I think legitimately, and maybe I'm wrong too, but I took it as I want to clear the air up with any other team that refuses to come to me because they think I'm going to have a bad offer.
That makes sense.
I do actually make good trades. Okay. And he showed that because, I mean, let's be honest. I was shocked when he traded to me at the beginning of the year. Yeah, and then the fact that he sent that text message out just solidifies that Pops is open for business. Pops will make a fair offer in his mind. And I think he just wants more offers to come his way. And I don't think that was a bad way of communicating that.
If that's the case, then Pops, I apologize because, as I said in the text, and I'll say it again, your offer wasn't a bad offer in my opinion. If Anthony doesn't come in with his offer, those are the only two offers that I know of specifically. Your offer is something that I think was more than acceptable as well, for Gabe. So, then if that's the case, if that's all that you were doing, then by all means. With that being said, let me just really quick go through this team. I love Pops' starting lineup. I think it's just as good as mine or anybody else's in the league for that matter. He has a bunch of potential stars. And then you look at the bench, once Ingram and Edelman come back, that's going to be rock solid. And then, Steve, I know you're not a fan of Michael Crabtree, but I am. I think Mike Crabtree's going to get a ton of targets out there in Baltimore. So I do like Michael Crabtree a lot. And then he picked up Alfred Morris yesterday, which was rock solid. With that being said, for this week and this week only, I'm going to have to say Dr. Evil's going to pull this game off. He has better matchups. Todd Gurley going against Oakland. The Rams defense going against Oakland. Christian McCaffrey going against Dallas. Dalvin Cook going against San Francisco. Yeah, it's going to be Keenan Allen going against Kansas City. Those matchups are just ridiculously one-sided. So give me Dr. Evil in this game. And we know this show took a little bit long, guys. But again, we try to do the draft recap and do our picks all in one. So that's why we went a little bit long on this one.
They're gonna listen anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everyone likes to hear about themselves.
But that's our show. You guys all, thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe, be safe. We are out.
Enjoy your Labor Day.
Adios.